Have you ever wondered what it would be like if a whole town treated garbage sorting not like a chore, but like a real shared mission? Well, today, that's exactly what we're going to do. We're diving into the official guide from Sakaki, Japan, and let me tell you, it is a masterclass in how to get things done.
Okay, I know what you're thinking. You see all these cute mascots and the different categories, and it looks super complicated, right? But hang in there with me. This isn't designed to be confusing. It's all about precision. It's a system that's been fine-tuned to make recycling as efficient as it can possibly be. So we're going to walk you through everything. The rules, the bags, even the whole philosophy behind it. Trust me, by the end of this, you'll pretty much be a sorting pro yourself. Okay, first things first, we've got to get into the right mindset here. In Sakaki, this is not just another chore you check off a list. It's actually framed as your mission. How cool is that? It's a shared responsibility, something that connects every single person living there.
And this quote really gets right to the heart of it all. Think about garbage, change our future. See, it's not just about keeping the town looking nice. It's about linking that simple, everyday act of sorting your trash to these massive global goals, like the UN Sustainable Development Goals. So, every single bottle you rinse out, every piece of cardboard you bundle up, it's all seen as part of a much, much bigger picture.
All right, mission accepted. So let's get down to the practical stuff. We're going to talk about the most basic tools in your sorting arsenal, the two main garbage bags. The whole system really starts with this one key difference. You've got your burnable garbage, which gets picked up twice a week. Pretty standard. But then you've got the non-burnable garbage, and get this, it's only collected once a month. Think about that. It's a huge built-in reason to create as little of that kind of trash as you possibly can. Now, before we get into what goes where, you have to know the 3 golden rules. These are non-negotiables. First, you have to use the official town bags. Second, and this one is a game changer, you have to write your name on the bag. Talk about accountability. And third, everything has to be out at the collection point by 8 a.m. sharp. No excuses. So, what exactly goes into that burnable bag that you're putting out a couple times a week? Well, it's things like kitchen scraps. You gotta drain them first, of course, and then items that are tricky to recycle, like old leather shoes, broken plastic toys, or diapers. And these pictures show some of the things you might not expect, like that old puffy jacket that's totally worn out. Yep, that's burnable. And those little ice packs you use in your lunch? Also burnable. It just goes to show you really gotta learn the specific categories. Okay, now let's talk about that non-burnable bag, the one that only gets picked up once a month. This is for stuff like broken ceramic dishes, old metal pots, glass plates that aren't bottles, and empty paint cans. You know, basically anything that won't burn and can't go into one of the other recycling streams. Okay, so that covers the 2 main bags for your basic waste. Now, let's level up and talk about the stuff you'll be sorting for your weekly recycling run. When it comes to plastics, it's a pretty straightforward 4-step deal. First, you look for that plastic recycle mark. Then you give it a quick wash if it's dirty. Peel off any stickers that aren't plastic, and here's the important part. These don't go in a bag. Nope, you put them directly into the special collection boxes. Paper and cloth are kind of similar. You have to separate them into categories, so all your newspapers together, all your cardboard together, you get the idea. Make sure to pull off any plastic bits, like from an envelope window or any metal staples. And the last step is super important. You bundle each type up neatly with string.
And then we have cans and bottles. This might feel familiar to a lot of you, but of course it's done with that classic Japanese precision. You gotta rinse them out, take off the caps and labels, which, by the way, probably go in the plastics, and then crush them if you can to save space. And just like with the plastics, these go straight into their own containers, not into a bag.
Okay, so you've pretty much mastered the daily bags and the weekly recycling. But what about all the weird stuff, the tricky items? Well, let's dive into the things that need some special attention. All right, pay close attention here, because this is stuff you absolutely cannot just toss in with your regular garbage. We're talking about hazardous waste. Things like batteries, fluorescent light bulbs, those old school thermometers with mercury in them, and even broken mirrors. All of these have their own separate special collection boxes so they can be dealt with safely. So, here's a question I think everyone has. No matter where you live, what on earth do you do with spray cans? You know, they're metal, so they seem recyclable, but they used to be pressurized, which feels tricky. Well, the guide has a super clear answer for this. First, you have to be 100% sure it's completely empty. Then, and please be careful when you do this, you poke a small hole in it to make sure all the pressure's gone. Once you've done that, and only then, can it go into the cans container with all the other metal cans.
And finally, what about the really big stuff? You know, anything that just won't fit in a bag, like an old couch, a futon, or a bicycle. Well, that's what they call oversized garbage. Big appliances like TVs and fridges are in their own special category too. For both of these, you have to make special arrangements to have them picked up, and yeah, it usually costs an extra fee.
So, we've talked a lot about the how to sort everything. But to really get it, we need to talk about the why. So let's zoom out a little bit from the bins and bags and look at the philosophy that's driving this whole thing. And it all comes back to something you probably heard of, the 3 R's. Reduce, reuse, recycle. But what's really interesting here is the order of importance. The number one priority is always to reduce. Just don't buy stuff you don't need. The second is to reuse things you already own, which means recycling, even with all this incredible detail, is actually treated as the very last resort.
The guide also has this brilliant Japanese concept for cutting down on kitchen waste called the 3 Kiri. It's awesome. The first one is mizukiri, which just means drying out your food scraps to make them smaller and less smelly. Then you have tsukaikiri, which is all about using up every single part of your ingredients. And finally, tabekiri, which is maybe the easiest one. Eat all the food on your plate. It's such a simple but powerful way to think about food waste. And really, all of this builds up to one big idea that the town promotes: ethical consumption. The idea here is that every single time you buy something, you're making a choice. It's about trying to consciously pick products that are better for the planet, for society, for everyone. Things like fair trade products or buying local. It completely changes waste management from just a boring duty into a really positive, proactive way of life.
And that really brings us to our final thought here. This guide from Sakaki shows that a manual about garbage can be so much more than just a list of rules. It can be a real statement about what a community values. It connects the tiniest daily habit to the biggest possible future. So it kind of leaves you with a question, right? What could we all change if our own towns and cities tackled this challenge with this much thought and this much care?